Hey golf fans, Christian Pedersen, Mr. Head Coach Jack Klein, aka Golf and Faith. We're out here at, we've moved to the other end of the driving range this week so we can get better lighting so that he keeps looking handsome and I get to be looking just barely tolerable for television standards. Back with another week of, we're going to call it the premier high school golf podcast on earth, breaking down, actually finally got some numbers, despite the fact that the CIF information page went blank this morning and all their results have been erased technically. We screenshot stuff, we get stuff tweeted to us, so we got some people to finally talk about because we're now 2 weeks in. I know that some schools are on spring break, so we're slowing back down, but we officially have a best golfer in the county. We officially have a couple best teams in the county. We officially have some surprises, some newcomers. So we actually have a little bit of a goodie bag to dive into. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think that, let's start with our freshman, Jackson Rivera with Torrey Pines. I mean, we know how strong Torrey's going to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, spoiler alert.
Yeah, not a surprise there, but he's averaging under par now, almost a stroke under par. So Torrey's off to, really their season starts this week. They've got, they must have 6 or 7 matches between the 2 tournaments that they're playing in and the individual matches. So we'll start seeing them post up some scores. Sophomore this year, who we talked about a little bit last year, who is local to San Diego, that's playing for Torrey, Caden Fioroni, and Caden's a nice young man, and in fact he has practiced down here at Riverwalk for some years. He's now moved a little closer to Torrey, so but again, I think he's a really nice player, and I think he has a lot of potential, and especially if he stays with it. He's probably grown 5 or 6 inches, and so I think we're going to see a lot out of that young man. Dylan Menanti is back. He's a junior this year.
And let's address why we're bringing up Dylan Menanti right now. Currently, as it stands, the #1 individual golfer in San Diego County with Sage Creek. He's a junior there, right, at a minus 1.3 differential.
Yeah, which it's just 2 rounds, but he played very well last year, so no surprise to see him up near the top. So expect to see him there at the end of the season as well. Kento Yamawaki, who's with La Costa Canyon, another really fine player. We'll see Kento this year. We've got Jonathan Farmer, who's a senior at Torrey, Shane French, who we've talked about before, that's at Cathedral, Cameron Sisk, of course, with Valhalla. All these young men, I think, are going to be there at the end of the year. So we've got a freshman, we've got a couple of sophomores, we have 3 juniors, really just and 3 seniors on that top list. But it's nice to see young men from different grade levels.
I'd like to also bring up another person, because we will ultimately spend the majority of the season talking about the better golfers and the better teams, but Matt Landy out at Claremont got word through the grapevine. He posted his first low score of the match, literally just picked up golf this year for the team, goes out, tries out, makes the team. So, right, this is expanding. We got. I'm going to give a shout out to El Camino Golf for beating Carlsbad, or for beating Fallbrook. Also, Carlsbad for posting at 200 and beating Fallbrook. Like, the game is starting to expand, and we talk about Sage Creek, Valhalla, individuals from those teams that don't necessarily have a whole team demographic to carry themselves, right, to be like, oh, we are a powerhouse of golf. But that's what's sort of fun about this is that we're looking for those individual diamonds in the rough, if you will, that will sort of make their way up to the top. You mentioned also, you always mention a lot of great things, but you mentioned, first 2 rounds or so early in the season. What's the confidence index on, if you see somebody right now, just say, of the top 15 golfers, how many of them do you think will still be, doesn't have to be in the particular order they're in, but still in that top 15 by the end of the season?
I would bet 10 or 12 of them might be. I mean, we'll have some players, James Song we mentioned before, he'll settle down and start shooting under par. There's some names that aren't in that top 10 that will be. But players play, especially the top players, they're playing all year round for the most part now, so these scores aren't a big surprise as to what they're capable of doing.
But at the same time, you get one bad day in the sand trap, one windy day, and you can put yourself in a little bit of a hole early. So how hard is it for someone like that who maybe had a bad round or two to start the season to work off that deficit and climb back into the race?
It's a really good question. That's golf. Golf is up and down, and it's certainly not a game of perfect. The joy is that if you end up playing 18, 19 matches, you get to spread that out over a lot of matches, and it maybe, is a quarter of a stroke. It really is not going to change the.
So this isn't a panic button situation early in the year.
Not at all. But at the same time, the flip side of that is when do I want to be playing my best golf? Well, I want to be playing my best golf when we get into CIF and when we're on our way to state. So being this early in the season, this is a good time to be, getting back into high school golf, which is different because we play 9 holes. Most of these young men are used to playing in 18-hole tournaments, and 9-hole is quite different.
We'll highlight. I was going to say highlight what might be some of the differences.
So a lot less forgiving. Just as we're talking about being able to spread 9-hole scores out over the course of 20 matches, it's the same thing. If you have 1 hole, 2 holes that are a bit challenging, it's hard to hide.
So does that mean golf
9 holes?
So does that mean golf more conservatively, golf more aggressively, because you don't have those holes to get? You can't just climb birdie here, par there, birdie here. Is it I got to go for that green? Or do you sort of pump the brakes and say, if I overshoot this one, I'm putting myself 2 strokes that there's no room to make it up?
In a perfect world, what I'd love to think is
no sentence that starts in a perfect world ever ends up being practical. But yes, continue.
There you go. Well, I'd love to see these young men using every shot as a learning experience, because really this is what we do. I mean, golf is a game that you're growing throughout a lifetime, hopefully, but particularly even throughout the season. This isn't a game that you get the same lie every time you go. Every time it's different, and so the joy of it is building on those skills. So hopefully these young men are all playing within themselves, within what they're capable of doing, certainly. And for one player that might be taking a putter from the front of the green, and for another player it might be wedging it in close because their skill level is higher. But again, it's just building on those experiences and getting better every week. And conservative, that comes with playing within yourself, what your capabilities are.
Well, it certainly seems like right now the capabilities of a lot of golfers are to be really, really good. It does not seem like this is a disproportionate year where one person's going to, tiger in the red vest on a Sunday, run away with this one.
Right.
So I'm excited to see where this is going. Like I said, we're still early, so you're going to start to hear some of the same names being said over and over and over. But that being said, also at the same time, we always want to hear from you guys. Help educate us, because on the occasional days where the CIF page goes completely blank with all the information, we don't have everybody to talk to. So tweet at us, SD Prep Insider. Coach, I want to close with a new segment. Every week, I want to squeeze just a little bit more golf information out of you. I want to get a pro tip. So for the golfers out there that are still learning, still growing, what might be your lesson in terms of, you talk about, come to practice here at Riverwalk or go to Admiral Baker, but what might be some of the advantages or incentive to go put yourself in a different situation every week and try those different courses instead of just saying, I'm going to master this golf course this year and then I'll move on to another one?
There's no substitute for competition, and you've got to challenge yourself if your game is going to improve. I think that for many golfers, they spend a disproportionate amount of time hitting golf balls at the range and getting those perfect lies and giving themselves perfect lies, and they're not seeing those on the golf course. And I think that we need to have that transfer practice, and especially that practice of competition. And there's ways to compete against yourself. There's ways to create a competitive feeling for yourself. Whether you say, hey, whatever this swing looks like, I'm going to post this. Well, if you don't think that doesn't add a little pressure, I think it does. I mean, there's lots of things that we can do to help amp it up and get ourselves ready for competition. So that would be the tip of the week, is to really encourage be creative. Think about how to be competitive.
Well, we'll see if that works. We'll have him post my next couple swings on our Instagram story and see how embarrassed I get, or if it makes me a better golfer. Coach, thank you very much. You gonna hit the links at all this week?
I'm back out there right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say he pulled the car. He texted me, I'll come off the course for 10 minutes to get this done, and the cart's right there, and so he's gonna head back out there. What hole were you on when I bugged you?
Actually, we're moving to 8.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm playing with a young tour player, so it's a lot of fun for me.
There you go. That's how cool. Like, no disrespect to our other podcast hosts, but none of them actually have the official MLB or like the PGA member status. So, Coach, thank you very much for sharing just a little bit of your pro wisdom, and we'll see you next week, sports fans.